Welcome back to the official Atari Games podcast. This is Jason here, joined by a trio of guests yet again. Two returning guests back to back. I don't know the last time this has happened, but here we are. Dan Amrich, content editor at Digital Eclipse. Welcome back, Dan. How you doing?
Hi, thanks, Jason.
We got Stephen Frost, aka Frosty, head of production at Digital Eclipse. Welcome back.
Thank
Frosty,
you.
How you doing?
Good. I'm not doing too shabby. It's a good week so far. Only a few fires to put out so far, so can't complain too much.
Do you quantify a few? What's the limit between what's the next threshold after a few?
A few is 3 to 4, and then anything above 5 is like a normal week.
Oh, okay, sweet. Well, that's good. 3 to 4 on a Tuesday, not bad. And joining us for the first time, Jeremey Williams, lead engineer on Power Rangers Rita's Rewind at Digital Eclipse. Jeremey, welcome to the pod.
Thanks, Jason. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. Now, we're going to talk all about Power Rangers. We're going to talk about the game. We're going to play the game. If you're on YouTube, you're going to see it. If you're not on YouTube, that link is in the description, so check that out if you want to see it. Or if you just want to hear our dulcet voices, then stay wherever you are. Doesn't really make a difference. First of all, join the Discord, Atari Discord, link below. Join that. We're about to play Power Rangers Rita's Rewind, and you will be able to find the link to wishlist those games below. Wishlist Tetris Forever, another Digital Eclipse joint that'll be coming out this year. Also, Atari 50, it's out there. DLC 1, it's out. That was the last podcast we recorded. Check that out if you want to know what it's all about. There's another DLC coming out before the end of the year, so be on the lookout for those. And lastly, it's worth mentioning, this is going to drop on, don't make me look up the date. I got to look up the date. It's going to be October 11th. And you know what that means? That's right. Christmas is coming. Now that means holiday sales. All right. So if you're not thinking about it already, and if there's some games like, man, there were some games from Atari that I wanted to play, maybe Digital Eclipse, or really any game in general, I can tell you what, there may be sales for sure happening in your near future. So wish list those games so you are aware when those sales happen on your platform of choice. Now,
may, definitely, possibly, might happen for sure.
Count on it. Count on a few things in life. And one of those, what is it? Death, taxes,
and holiday sales.
And holiday sales on digital games. Take it to the bank. All right, enough about that. Got a warm-up question for you guys.
All right.
We're going to talk about Power Rangers, okay? And I know Dan's really excited because Dan, if you're not on YouTube, you just got to go over just to see his whole setup. We're like in, what's the thing called that they're in? Like, where do they
Command Center.
The command center,
he's basically set up his own command center, and he has become the Blue Ranger. But I want to know, what is your history with Power Rangers? And Jeremey, as you giggled, you're going to go.
Jeremey, do you want to kick it off? You're giggling.
Got to go first. He's giggling.
No, I need time to think of an answer, man.
Oh, all right.
You better go.
Because it goes so far back?
No. If I'm going first, then it's going to be nice and quick because I have no history with Power Rangers. I predate Power Rangers. Like, by the time Power Rangers was out, I was in college and not watching a whole lot of. When was Power Rangers even on? After school?
I was syndicated after school, early 90s.
Yeah. So no, I came to Power Rangers late, and by late I mean with this project. So, I'm all about it now. I realize now how much I missed out. Like, I would have loved this kind of show, this kind of weird dissonance between Japan and U.S. footage, and knowing that at that age, if I was young watching this, it would have just all made sense in a dreamlike kind of way. And all the fantastic effects and just the predictability of the cadence of every episode. Like, I love it. Like, I've gone back and watched them all now, and I dig it. And I'm like trying to get my kids to watch it, but
good luck.
It's weird. I came to it late.
How old are your kids? And please say they're in their 20s.
No, 14 and 17.
Oh yeah, okay.
That's a big ask.
Nowadays, yeah.
Yeah. So wait, did you have a live action schlocky show of choice as a kid then? That would have been let's say the Power Rangers of its time?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I remember lots of weird shows imported from Europe that had that PAL look that I was just like, what's going on? Why does it look different? But no, I grew up on Knight Rider and Fall Guy and
Street
just
Hawk A Team.
Transformers, and yeah, that was my gen.
All right, fair enough. Frosty, how about yourself?
I definitely watched it when it came out. Like I was still a little bit older. I was in high school, I think, still, but I was still just enamored with like anything Japanese back in that day, right? Anything that came there was like influenced by it and things like that. And Power Rangers at the time was this very quirky, kind of unique show that wasn't really like a lot of the other stuff that was out there at that time, right? And I just dug it. I thought it was like just cheesy enough, and it was just I felt like a show that everyone just had fun making to a degree, and so I just enjoyed it. I don't know. It's like I wanted to see what the next kind of kooky boss monster was going to be, right? Because the costumes and just the aesthetics for the settings and the stage and stuff like that was always so funny, and also just the like what Dan kind of hinted at, the weird transitions between the Japanese footage and the American film stuff, especially a little bit later on, and how they had to try to connect that stuff together was always very entertaining. So it was great. Like I had it. I never treated it seriously, but it was a great way to kind of pass the time. And I was more so interested to see what kind of crazy boss monster was going to happen at the end.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite one or like a memorable one that stands out?
I mean, the Goldar is always the classic for me because he's the
Sure.
first one you came across, and he's always there in the background, even if he's not the main star of the show. But his one-liners and his quips to like against Rita are always great in the show, and just that the clashing there is always funny. So even when he wasn't the main character as a supporting character, he was always entertaining. So I appreciate that.
It really is like a number two to
Yeah,
Blofeld
yeah,
relationship.
yeah, very much so.
Yeah. Dan, how about yourself?
I am also of a certain age that I actually missed. I didn't quite miss the original wave of Power Rangers, but by the time Power Rangers became the phenomenon that it did, I was already working at magazines. And thankfully, I was working at a magazine that was sort of like youth culture before we weren't new to call it youth culture. So I was aware of it and I was aware of the impact, but like the Turtles were a really big deal when I was in college. So that was sort of the last big sort of animated phenomenon that I remember being like on board for. But I was in the working world when Power Rangers came out. So I was aware of it and I knew it and I sort of got it, but I didn't really dive deep, similarly to what Jarrett said, until we got into this project. I was like, yeah, I know the Power Rangers, but I wasn't really a dyed in the wool fan. I didn't grow up with it the way that other people did. I grew up with it as like, I am in the media and this is a phenomenon and you should know what your kids are watching kind of thing. So yeah, I dove a little bit deeper when we got into this, and I got to understand the characters. And the most interesting thing has been seeing how much the characters mean to people that did grow up with Power Rangers. It is no big surprise that I grew up with Star Wars. That was my big franchise, and it is still haunting me to this day. But I was able to make that connection. How I feel about Star Wars is how other people feel about Power Rangers. And once I got that, I was on board 100%. I'm like, I absolutely love it. It's made for kids, but it appeals beyond kids. It's sometimes cheesy, but it's super fun. That's part of the appeal. I connected with it on a deeper level than I expected to.
Awesome. Yeah, I was in the perfect demographic at the perfect time when Power Rangers came out. So I was born in '88. So like
Oh,
it was like I was there for
my
like the
pills.
yeah, I was there for like the perfect arc. Yeah, now you know. Add it to the lore. I was there for like the perfect arc of like it kind of hitting mainstream or mainstream kids programming, and then culminating in the Ivan Ooze movie, right? Like that was the thing. And then I honestly could not tell you anything that happened after that. I could barely tell you anything that came out before that. At this point, it's been so long. But I remember the putties. I remember Rita, that voice that is still haunting and shrieking, and Megazords and all those things. It's like it's good. It's good stuff. And I really like, you always see these things pop up here and there, and I'd always see that largely through games. Like through the games that would pop up, I'd see, oh, now they're in dinosaurs now. Okay, sure. Now they're ninjas. Interesting. Like that reinvention cycle. I went through
Yeah.
the first one, and that was it, and really kind of fell off after that.
So you would have been like 7 or 8 when Power Rangers debuted in '93, then, right? So you were there for like the first 3 seasons, and then the movie with Ivan
Exactly.
Ooze, and
Yeah.
so that's like the magical time to be into any fantasy or sci-fi franchise. I think that's what imprints on you hard. When you're like 9 or 10, everything is awesome. You know, everything is possible. Everything you see is real, and you're super into it. Did you have like the backpacks and like the lunchbox? Did you have the merch?
I don't maybe I guess I probably have like some action figures lying around
Okay.
or something like that. I honestly don't remember enough of it. But because I had all sorts of action figures, they would always like
Sure.
intertwine. It's like I had the multiverse on my floor
Yeah.
before any of this stuff ever happened. Right? Before I even knew what Marvel was. So yeah, I was a big fan into that. I may have been a Power Ranger for at least one Halloween. I don't
You would
remember,
remember.
but it makes sense if I was.
You can't be a
Yeah.
Power Ranger. You have to be one of the Power Rangers. Which
Yeah,
one were you exactly?
You would remember who you were. I mean,
I
come
would
on.
I would assume if I was like because the Red Ranger was Jason, right? So I guess that would be me. I guess I was the
There you go.
Right. There's your kinship, of course.
Yeah.
You
exactly.
sound a lot like our CTO Kevin, who my boss, who grew up in the same sort of generation as you exactly. And when he talks about Power Rangers, it's as if Dan and I are talking about Star Wars or something. It really is like the show of his childhood. His eyes light up. He knows every bit of trivia, and it was probably a big reason about why this project even happened, because he was the one pushing for this. How great it would be to do a Power Rangers game in particular, because he doesn't feel like the Power Rangers fans have been terribly well served over the years by game development, and looking back on a lot of the titles that they've had, I can kind of see where he's coming from.
Is this the Kevin?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Everybody now has to say his name's come up. Everybody now has to say one sentence about Kevin. Frosty, go.
He was at the end of She-Hulk.
Okay, perfect. Dan, one sentence.
He's frighteningly intelligent.
Jeremy, one sentence.
My son met him and described him at dinner later that night as White Jesus.
Perfect. Okay. And with that, we're going to play Power Rangers.
I'm glad Jeremy went last.
Wait, can I add one last thing?
Say whatever you want.
What I describe him as is sort of like, especially if you look at Lamasoft, the Jeff Minter story, he's like young Jeff Minter.
He is.
In some eerily ways, especially the profile shots of young Jeff Minter with the sunglasses, that's like Kevin. That's Kevin. That's like...
Mm-hmm. It's true.
Got it. Sounds good. Kevin's great. Kevin is the reason all things happen, from what I understand.
Most definitely.
All right, right on. Well, let's jump into playing some Power Rangers, shall we?
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, so you were about to say something. Oh, am I getting the controller thing again?
You might have to share your screen. I don't know if you're sharing your screen right now.
Oh, right. Yeah, I should do that on...
Otherwise, we will just imagine what you're playing.
Wow, great punch, Jason.
Yeah, that was a great punch. Well, I was jumping at the time, but okay.
I had to redo this thing. Yeah.
There we go.
All right, here we go. So we are we're going to play some Power Rangers. We got a little bit of an intro here. This is the demo. So what are we playing here? What am I playing, I should say? Why don't we start with that?
Dan, you can jump in if you want.
All right, you are playing an alternate history inspired by the Netflix special Once and Always from 2023. So in that special, which was like a 30th anniversary celebration for the whole franchise, we bring back some of the classic Rangers from different seasons, and they wind up... Rita is trying to destroy all the different teams throughout time. So this gave us the excuse to have... we've got Robo Rita, which is a robotic version of all of her evil that had been stripped out of her during the regular seasons. And we've got a time travel device. So we're like, okay, so you've got a mega evil version of Rita who is willing to kill, and you have the ability to travel through time. What if she just goes back in time rather than bringing everybody to her in the future? What if she just goes back to the original Ranger team in '93 and tries to destroy them before they really get started, when they're the most vulnerable? So that's what our opening sets up, is this idea that Robo Rita in more or less present day 2023 is fighting current day Rangers, and she slips through this time portal and goes back to see the original '93 Rangers and team up with her previous self. So it's really simple, really, as arcade games go.
Amazingly, Dan does manage to tell that whole story in about 3 or 4 lines.
Yeah. It's amazing that it only, like, I can only do it that short, because I am notorious for over talking. Let's put it that way.
Well, that happens.
So yeah, that's the setup. Is alternate reality. It's season 1, but not as you know it. And we get to have a lot of fun with that, because we get to show fans things that they might recognize from later seasons or other references to the show that wouldn't normally be in a game if we were just doing a straight retelling of season 1.
Okay, great. And I apologize for watching. There's definitely been a bit of an issue with some of the recordings. That's on my side, but I am now back on it, and now you can actually see the game going. So
yeah. So this is Rita at her portal, and this is basically more or less present day. This is, during the events of Once and Always. And here comes Jeremy's beautiful lightning. I love your lightning.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
That was a direction from Mike. It was like he was inspired by a game called Out of This World, which is a game that we loved from the late 80s. They had lightning effects in there that were done with just a few colors that he thought would suit the aesthetic. Could I bother you to turn that CRT shader off by hitting the start button and go to options? Yeah, thanks.
Oh, yeah. So we do, for people that prefer to play their retro games as if they were playing on a retro monitor, we have a really good CRT filter, and it is new. This will be the first game that we debut it on. We showed it at PAX, we showed it at Gamescom, and at PRG. It's really, really cool, but it's not going to do so well in a video chat. So
Right, exactly. Hey, and we actually got called out for it at PAX for one of the best CRT filters that people had seen by
really proud of it.
It's just amazing that people are walking around PAX and looking at CRT filters, but hey, we'll take it.
Yeah.
I got like cornered and mini interviewed about the CRT filter. And I was like, "Oh, I'm really glad you asked." He goes, "It's what I do."
Oh my God.
Wow. He's that guy. And then of course he tweeted about it under his CRT account.
Yeah.
And it had all this reaction, like all these everybody has to see this. So yeah, there's a deep subculture for quality CRT filters, and I was really glad that we found favor with them.
Yeah. So I've stopped on the map because you haven't shown the map yet, right? So
we have not shown the map.
What do you want to say about this map? This beautiful
This
map?
is a map. This is a 1-to-1 perfect recreation, an aerial view of Angel Grove.
Oh.
And yeah, this is something we didn't show in earlier demos. You're seeing a couple of things that are here more for the the final release, and players will be able to go back and replay earlier segments just by moving around this map. But as you progress, you'll unlock new nodes on the map, and it's different battles and different things like that. But you do start, as almost every classic Power Rangers thing does, in the canyons, in Angel Grove, out in the rocks and stuff.
Sure. And there's everybody. Look at that. They look awesome. The pixel art is incredible.
This is also something that
Really
players who saw the game at trade shows haven't seen, which is at the top of every episode, we have all the teenagers walk out together, no matter how many people are playing the game. And then for all those who aren't playing, there they go.
It's so funny.
Like,
It's just like, yeah.
We are out of here.
We're out of here. Yeah, gotta go. All right.
Yeah.
I'll also point out that
everybody, wait. Everybody give me an aye, aye, aye.
Ay, 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 ay.
Ay, ay, ay.
Aye, aye, aye.
Rangers.
Yeah.
Rangers.
Now get your throats ready, because I'm gonna ask you for a Rita impression later.
Oh God.
Oh,
That's
God.
a little bit
Mine
tough.
sounds like Marge Simpson. I don't think you want to hear that.
That's not too far off. Anyway.
It's far off enough. I'll tell you that. I'm sure eagle-eyed viewers noticed that Jason dropped in, or Tommy dropped in there. When you complete the game, and Jason, we're giving you special access here because you're Atari, and let's face it, you keep our lights on. But Tommy, the Green Ranger, is an unlockable player when you complete our core campaign. So you have to get through the story. Tommy plays an important role, as you might imagine, in season 1. So we tell his story as part of our narrative. That's why he's not there at the beginning. But once you have completed the story, then you can choose him as a playable character. So you saw him jump in as a teen. That's the first time anybody's seen his teen sprite, I think.
Looks
and
great.
it's so. But he will not be there for regular players. Exclusive.
But I think
Rangers, it's very important that we show Tommy as the Green Ranger when we demo things with Jason at Atari.
yes, it's
May the
true.
power protect you.
But I think going back to sort of like the points we talked about, obviously everyone is aware who's followed Power Rangers back in the day. There were the myriad of 16-bit and handheld games of that ilk. And a combination of like, side-scrolling brawler, but mostly on a singular plane or planes that you could jump between, but not free roaming as far as walking around the environment. Then there was some, fighting game sort of esque designs and things like that. But during that heyday, I mean, you had arcade games and around there about every major franchise, Simpsons, X-Men, Aliens, like everything. Every sort of major IP kind of had a side-scrolling kind of beat 'em up, arcade game. And Power Rangers was a game or an IP that didn't really kind of have that. And obviously, Digital Eclipse, we live in kind of that era where we are great fans of that classic kind of Capcom SNK period of time, as far as sprite work and the types of games that were released during that generation. And always came to this sort of idea that like Power Rangers, despite it being a huge popular franchise back then, never got its arcade game experience, right? There was never that moment where your friends came together in arcade and you put in your quarters and you can pop in and choose a ranger. And so we wanted to kind of correct that and create an experience that would feel at home in sort of that arcades of yesteryear, and sort of capture that missing element that fans, haven't had ever. And so that was sort of the impetus, I think, in a lot of ways for kind of the direction that we went with this and the art style that we went with this. And also, pull out some of the better parts and pieces from the 16-bit games that fans did have, right? Because there's some great stuff there as well, and there's a lot of inspiration from those games too. So I think that's where the genesis of kind of this project came about to some degree, and what we're trying to accomplish in the end.
The genesis came from. I guys
Yeah.
see what you did there.
Hey. Oh, I needed that ice cream cone.
Yeah, one of the nice things about revisiting this genre and doing an arcade game now is that we get to look at it with rose-colored glasses, right? You can go back and go, what were the most fun parts of those 90s arcade games that Frosty was talking about? And so we get to do an optimized version of that. That's really cool. That's Go-Go Power. You have gotten Go-Go Power. So now you
cool.
have extra badassery for about 10 seconds.
More than
Perfect.
that, I think maybe 20.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, 21 seconds.
What is the boost, Chair? Is it speed, or is it damage? Is it invulnerability, or all three?
It is speed. You move, I think, twice as fast. So
Oh
all
man,
your punches,
the way he
you
flips around was
you
crazy.
always have a trail. Importantly, you cannot be knocked down. So if an explosions might knock you down, but enemies can't.
Okay.
The recreating a 90s arcade game on console comes with unsuspected challenges. I don't think a lot of people think about. Primarily, like the major mechanic in those old games is inserting a quarter, because you had to continue. Like the game would beat you down, it would get you hooked, and then it would beat you down, and then you'd have to insert another quarter to continue. And that was like the painful part of playing the game, and you do it, but nowadays it's like free. So recreating that sense of challenge and where is that, I don't want to say pain point, but where is that that part of the game that makes you feel threatened is a different kind of thing that we have to consider. And that becomes like, how many continues do you get? How what do we do when you die? And like, do you reset at the beginning of the level? Do you restart it at checkpoint? Do you restart right there? What happens if one of your cohorts dies and you have no more continues and you keep playing? Like, what are the balances? So these are all things that that are different from arcade game era brawlers versus console era brawlers.
Right. Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah. We just asked for all your quarters up front in this case.
That's
Yeah,
true.
right.
Actually, the best way to pay
but
for
then
this
it's set to
game
free play, so you know.
is with quarters. Oh, here we are. We're back on the map. Oh, and you could like check that off, so you go back and play.
Right.
Yeah,
you
if
want
you
to
yeah,
miss the
there's-
goals or something like that, you can go back and get all 3.
What's
Accomplish
the
all
juice
goals.
bar? Can I press that button?
You can. No? Oh, you can't? Okay.
Well, no, technically yes.
I mean,
Steven?
wait, is
Steven, can he press that button?
he allowed to press that button?
No,
Because apparently it will work.
Let's skip that. Let's skip that.
Oh, we're gonna skip
Alright, then
that. Okay, cool.
Let me explain the juice bar then.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the show, you know that the kids hung out at the Angel Grove Youth Center and Ernie ran the juice bar, and that's where all the exposition happened in between combat sequences. So we use it the same way. You will be able to go in between any of the action sequences. You can go back to the juice bar. You will get to talk to Ernie. You will get to talk to Bulk and Skull. They all have dialogue. It's very much like the show. Or at least we've tried to make it very much like the show, but it's the breather in between knocking the snot out of putties like you're doing right now. So yeah, it's part of the feel of making it feel like the show. And there will be, as you go back, there will be different dialogue. It doesn't always do the same thing every time. And so, keep checking back when you want to. It won't always be brand new, but in between major episodes, the game is split into 5 episodes, and we really see it like episodes of the TV show, but playable, right?
Yes.
So you're still in episode 1. You're still in Yesterday of the Dumpster. But there will be 5, and so there are going to be specific scenes that take place, and some of them will change based on what you did or did not do within your episodes. So yeah, Juice Bar is going to be a fun way for fans to be like, I get it, and they'll see the references, and there'll be fun stuff to do there too.
Yep.
There's a lot of stuff in this game for fans to fall in love with, and the juice bar is going to be, I think, especially cool for them.
And can I say that we did do our interpretation of the Bulk and Skull theme song for fans because it was brought up. People ask about that because they love Bulk and Skull and they love the theme song. So you get to hear their lovely theme song.
More exclusives.
Yeah. People have been asking. I think Steven has had to bear the brunt of this, but licensing music is not as easy as other people may think. So even though we're making a Mighty Morphin Power Rangers game, we still need to treat some elements of that franchise separately, and music is one of those things. So we needed to get special permission to use, for instance, the theme song in our announced trailer. Even though it was a fresh recording by our composer, Sean Bialo, for this, we needed that. We needed special legal rights to do that. You can't just, everything you see on the show is not necessarily yours. That's just the nature of the law, right? Like of IP law. So getting the Bulk and Skull theme was an extra ask and an extra fee and an extra pain in Steven's butt. But he's willing to endure that pain in the butt for you, the fans. And
One has to wonder if we are the first people ever to license the Bulk and Skull theme.
I think we might be outside of like the normal usage of it. It is potentially the case that we are. And actually, going back to Sean Biala, like I just want to give props to him. Sean's our composer for this product, as well as Bob Baffy, who's doing a lot of the sound effects, things like that. But Sean has delivered and is continue to deliver like an amazing soundtrack that is so appropriate for not only Power Rangers but also for that era of music of games that we're going for. And I think people are going to be very pleasantly surprised when they listen to the amount of music in this game and the variety in it, as well as they kind of progress through the levels. He's doing a great job, and every time he delivers something, we're just like giddy, to sort of hear it. So
it's super high energy. It's music to defeat Rita Repulsa by. It's really like, I hope that's what we call the soundtrack album if we ever get a chance to do that. Music to punch putties by. It's incredibly high energy. It both matches the show and what you would expect from an arcade game soundtrack. It's a delicate balance, and I think he's nailing it.
I think what we're calling this CD is Tender Moments of Recollection is what the soundtrack is called.
I like that. That's nice. And it's better than using the word nostalgia. Everybody always uses the word nostalgia. So I like using recollection.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with everything Steven said more. Sean is an absolute get for this project. I'm so glad he's on it. We came to him through a game that he worked on the music for called Donut Dodo, which is an extraordinarily fun arcade game that you can get on
Oh
all
yeah, 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 yeah.
platforms. But the music is equally great. And so when we were all playing that in the office and just like, wow, this game's great, but this music's fantastic. Who is this guy? So we looked into him, and meanwhile, he's independently tweeting to us saying, if you guys ever want to work together, I love your work. So it was a match made in heaven. We're
Oh
very
yeah, I
happy.
knew it was a match because when the first time I called him, he held up a handful of digital Eclipse games that he had bought in the past, and I'm like, oh
Okay, you're in.
yeah,
Yeah,
already this is sort of the case. So we're kind of approaching the last part of this demo here as far as Goldar goes. Once you defeat him, but you did pretty
Good
well. You did
dodge.
pretty well, Jason.
Yeah. Now I get to the point where I will call it out, but the first time I got to go hands on with this was at Gamescom in Germany with Chris Kohler, and I am very excited to point out the point where he yelled at me. All right, so I wasted the thing because I guess you can't actually do damage to this guy until all of his minions are killed.
Yes, that's why
Right.
the energy bar now, if you notice, when it'll go from red to not red. So you can
Yeah.
tell. Like right now, you can't harm him, right? And then when it's red, you can harm him. So
Yeah, so I basically used I used my special attack right before he did that. He's like, "No, you gotta
Right.
wait until he uses." I'm like, "Oh, all right, I don't know. It's my
Yeah.
first time playing the game now." So
Yeah.
Chris is like, give me the controller.
no, we were playing co-op. It was good. I think it was co-op. Yeah, we had fun.
Okay.
Yeah. No, the game's awesome. It feels great to play, and it does feel like a throwback, but not in a how do I say it? Not in an archaic way. Like oftentimes, you go back, you play these old games,
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, this feels old, right? Like I love that classics. The Simpsons arcade game's
Right.
awesome, right? But
Right.
man, it's tough. It's a
It's
tough one to
punch,
get.
it's kick, it's jump, it's combinations
Oh my
of
god.
those, right? Like that's still the language of a brawler. But you know, I got to demo this to a lot of fans at PAX, and a number of people, asked, "Oh, so is there character progression?" And I'm like, "No, this is an arcade game where you put in a quarter and you feel awesome from the beginning." So one of those sort of revisionist ways we were able to approach this project was we're not limited like Colossus. Colossus would punch in X-Men and Colossus would kick in X-Men, and that was great, and we loved that. But we don't, now it can be like, well, now there's a double jump, and now there's a ground pound, and now there's a dodge move that you go through Goldar's fireballs. And so we were able to expand the vocabulary. So it still feels like it's based on the brawlers that we all grew up with and we all still love. But yeah, it's much more of a modern interpretation of this gameplay that you're like, man, I didn't even realize I missed that until it was gone for a little while.
Yeah, and I think that the one point that we kind of always say internally that we kind of explain to people is that we try to deliver on what people's memories of those games are, the experience, but not the
Yes.
actual experience, right? Because oftentimes, if you were to dig out an old game that you remember fondly and you play it now, it doesn't end up quite as well as you thought it was, right?
Totally.
So we try to deliver on what the expectation or the memory, the golden memory is, versus the actual reality of it, and that's sort of a goal with this product as well.
So this demo, can I play this next one or
Yep,
no?
it won't. Yep, do it.
It'll just go to the yeah, you'll see. It just
All right, world premiere.
Oh.
Goldar.
Oh.
Oh, wam, bum, ba, ba, sad horns. Yeah, that's where the demo ends. Unfortunately, so the interesting thing is that you're going to go into a completely different kind of gameplay. One of the other things of making a new '90s arcade game is that we started stealing from other genres. It's not just a brawler. You also get to do what is known as super scalar. So it's a 2D, a faux 3D effect created through fast-moving 2D sprites. Sega's Outrun or Space Harrier
Mhm.
or Afterburner, those are kind of the classic examples of this genre. Power Drift. So that's how we do this. Every ranger gets to be in their Dinozord, and they chase this giant Goldar through Angel Grove, blasting and jumping and dodging, and there's all kinds it's a crazy action sequence, but it's all like you're going into the screen in that 3D thing. And it ends with you do eventually catch up to Goldar if you're good, obviously. Don't stink, and then you'll reach Goldar. And then it turns into a first person boxing mode, almost a punch out mode, which is also multiplayer where you get to play together, and we found a way to make that fun to have multiple people for the first time in a Power Rangers game in the cockpit working together as a team, but actually in a slugfest against Goldar. So a lot of people have asked how that works. And how did you make that fun? And the honest answer is because the first 3 things that we tried weren't fun. We did have to iterate this gameplay because, yeah, it sounds challenging, doesn't it? We think we found a way that's going to be enjoyable for everybody that's holding a controller.
Yeah,
I'll
totally.
leave it at that.
All right, looking forward to checking that out. Unfortunately, you won't let me play it, and just like Frosty
No,
won't let me
you
press
got-
the Y button.
We showed you the map. What
Yeah,
more do
well,
you
all
want,
right, fair
Jason?
enough. Fair enough. I don't know.
and the word juice bar.
Juice bar.
Yeah,
Yeah. We can
bar.
confirm there's a well, yeah, that's true. I guess
Yeah, but you
technically,
won't let me press the button. So now who's
No.
fault is that?
But you know what button it is.
That's true. Yeah.
But we'll be showing more super scalar stuff for the first reveals of it later in October.
Soon.
Yeah.
Right.
I feel like it's important just to color the discussion about Superscalar just for a moment, because I've spoken to people who've seen the trailers and they assume that it's 3D, and I just want to say it's not. Like there is not a single polygon in this entire game. It's all sprites, and we have a very custom game engine that lets you do things that is a lot harder to do on the traditional off-the-shelf game engine. So we have a very bespoke game here that's doing things that in the way that they used to do them, but dialed up to 11. So we're able to do some things that I think will be a very fresh kind of aesthetic for gamers to experience, and they should look pretty cool. It should look sort of like what Steven was saying, kind of like the experience that they remember, but dialed up. It's going to be pretty. I think it's pretty cool.
Well, so what's the difference between that and say like a Mode 7 back in the day?
Right. Well, like Mode 7 was the SNES sort of faux 3D thing where they'd take a texture and they'd lay it flat and it would sort of be 3D. That's just like that's a hardware trick that it would draw the texture that way. We're drawing all of our textures in the same way that like Afterburner used to draw textures, which is billboarded, like always perpendicular to the camera. But then layered. And so there's this kind of depth and scaling that creates this sense of 3D before they had the capability to draw polygons in 3D. So we're doing that style of display, but dialed to 11.
Very cool. I gotta ask, what was it like working with? I guess. Oh man, I just blanked on the Saban, right? Or
well, it's mostly Hasbro at this point because Hasbro acquired the rights and owns the sort of U.S. and rights to a lot of the particular regions in the U.S. So we actually only had to deal with Hasbro in direction to this, at least these particular seasons of Power Rangers, right? That were
So what was that like in crafting the story and the lore and like everything around this game and checks against what exists and get a little into that process.
Yeah, they were actually, what I appreciate about Hasbro is that they're really good partners. Obviously, there is a kind of background and lore and everything that's been established for Power Rangers, but in a lot of ways, they're kind of like Atari now, where they're just, stuff has happened in the past. People are aware of it. We're pretty flexible. We can talk about stuff. We have more flexibility in what we're doing. We're not so rigid. We're not like this corporate kind of thing. They're very much like that. They understand that it's more important to come up with an experience that is entertaining for people, and that is fun to play, and moving the pieces around in order to get to that is totally fine. So it was very rare where they were sticklers for any specific thing that we did, right? Oftentimes it's little adjustments here, or the look of something, or mainly the look of something, and things like that. But really, they were very open to like the whole idea of mixing up, the enemies and how the episodes are and who we decided to use, and sprinkling in characters and bosses that you wouldn't normally see in this order or these episodes, right? And stuff like that. So I have to give it, as far as, people who I've worked with in the history of my time in the video game industry, Hasbro has definitely been one of the sort of better partners that, as long as you had a valid reason for doing something, they would listen to it and they would 99% of the time be accepting of it, right? And that, which is great because, Dan and May and others who went off to kind of come up with this story and this dialogue about these situations that would have never happened in the show, right? In order to give folks surprises. Because I think that was a key thing. We didn't want a situation where people are just playing through the episodes again and they know exactly what's going to happen. Like, oh, yeah, Goldar is going to show up here. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. Like, at this point, so many decades later, that's a bit boring, right? And it's like to know what's coming is not that exciting. And so we knew right away we wanted to keep things fresh and unexpected and take the player on a journey, an alternate world journey where they wouldn't know what was happening next, right? And even from the beginning, Hasbro was very much on board for that. And yeah, they kind of let us go off. They trusted us, which is key, right, to kind of deliver on it. And I think the key thing with us is that we just had a very continuous open dialogue with them. We kept them updated on what we were doing. And they understood early on, like, the overall goals and the high level sort of concept of what we were trying to achieve, right? And I think they just kind of have nudged us gently in a specific direction sometimes. But for the most part, we kind of ran the show as far as what we were trying to do and what we were trying to achieve.
Yeah, I think we went through 9 or 10 story drafts, and that's just internal. But at no point was that draft like, oh, Hasbro says you can't do that. Every time that I submitted a new draft through Frosty to Hasbro, the answer was, they like it, keep going. They like it, keep going. All of the story changes came from within, because we would add new gameplay elements, or we would add new things that like the team wanted to do, or Mike would be like, I got this amazing new enemy, I love how this looks, let's incorporate it. Okay, all right. And so like we would have to rewrite the script to accommodate those kind of things so that it made sense within the Power Rangers universe. But Hasbro's been like, go, keep going, keep going, keep going, this looks fun, keep going. And that, I mean, it's unbelievably thrilling to be able to be part of that, because you expect somebody to be like, you can't treat my kids that way. And they were like, we love that you're having this much fun with our kids, so it's great.
Yeah, that's awesome. Anything that we didn't talk about that you guys want to bring up about the game before we get into my silly little game?
I mean, other than the menu and the juice bar, what more? Again,
good point.
The entitlement is unbelievable.
You're right. You're right. I'm looking for scoops. from within.
Let's say scoops, but
Let me just go into our shared drive and see what I can find. Give me a second. I'm gonna find some real stuff.
What does this mean? Yeah.
Last boss.
I will say that I'm very appreciative of the team because everyone who worked on this project is, even if they weren't Power Rangers fans before, learned to sort of fall in love with Power Rangers and just sort of the fun and silliness and kind of classic aspects of the IP and just kind of ran with it. And everyone was providing ideas and suggestions. It's a very collaborative team. We aren't the largest team in the world, right? But we have a small team of very passionate and very excited people to create something that's fun for the end user, right? And being able to rack that up in a shell that is Power Rangers is equally exciting. And it's very rare for me to have a team where, like you were talking about Kevin earlier, who's our engineering head, who loves Power Rangers, and I love Power Rangers, and May, who is the designer / lead artist on this, also very passionate Power Rangers person. And it's like being able to work on properties that the team as a whole are excited about. I think you accomplish sort of a lot more, and I think that excitement and passion shows up on the screen, hopefully, right? Knock on wood. So I just want to give props to everyone who worked on it, and especially Jeremey here, who diligently was a lead engineer of this project and always was trying to do 110% and always provided suggestions like how could boss fights be improved and better. And a lot of the work and effort on the presentation of the boss fights in this game can be attributed to him and his additional ideas and suggestions in order to ramp them up to 11, right? And things like that. So hopefully that comes across in the end product, but I just wanted to spend a second and just thank the team for their continued passion and desire to just really make a fun brawler experience for the fans.
Yeah, this is the first project where some people in the company have even had a chance to work together, because we had some members of the team who were on the Wizardry team, and when that project wrapped up, They're an Unreal team, and so they have 3D expertise. They can animate 3D models and use Blender and do these amazing things. And so we found a way to incorporate their work into the Superscaler while retaining the kind of look that I was talking about, while doing everything with sprites. And so I think that has been really gratifying, just to be able to have that professional and personal connection with these coworkers on this project that we didn't even anticipate heading into it. But when they became available and we realized we could really leverage their abilities, we did. We found a way to do it. And we had to write a bunch of custom code to do it, but it was so worth it. And so that has been extremely gratifying.
It's awesome. Very cool. All right, guys. Let's get into this ending segment here.
Are we going to name every game in Rita's Rewind?
You name every game.
Every game in Rita's Rewind.
Name all the Power Ranger colors until we run out. No. All right. This is a really dumb game I've come up with called. Well, first I need to get some ground rules. Okay.
Oh God.
We all have to agree on this first before we get started, and it's necessary because it's based on the parameters of the game I made. So first of all, the name of the game is called The Lone Ranger, aka Taste the Rainbow. Now, the original cast of Power Rangers, I've defined them as thus, and you could tell me if I'm wrong, and if I'm wrong, we're still going to deal with the actors that I've determined here. They are the Red Ranger, played by Austin St. John.
Yeah.
The Pink Ranger, Amy Jo Johnson. Blue Ranger, David Yost. Black Ranger, Walter Jones. Yellow Ranger, Toy Trang. I think, is that the right way to say the name? I hope I came close.
So.
And the Green Ranger, Jason Frank. Okay? Are we all in agreement that that is the original cast of the Power Rangers?
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Now, oftentimes, a lot of actors will cross over into the video game space, and they will lend their voice talent to a character in a video game. So, each round, I am going to name a video game that is not necessarily a Power Rangers game, and you are going to tell me which of the original Power Rangers lended their voice talent in this game.
Okay? Man.
And you say there's more than one round? Because I'm getting knocked out in the first round.
Yeah, I think we're
so
all
here's
done.
the good news. Here's the good news. It's not an elimination round. You will be playing the first to 3 points.
Oh my lord.
Okay.
Wow, I didn't even know there's enough to get us to
Do you guys have a meeting in the next hour? Because we're gonna all
And oh man, do I hope, regardless, whether or not there needs to be a tiebreaker or not, I am very excited to do the last round, regardless. All right, here we go. We are going to go because Jeremy is basically the challenger. All right, because he was not here for the last game. He will go first.
This is how you treat new guests.
Followed by Frosty, who is looking for redemption, and then Dan, who is the reigning champ. So that will be the order. Jeremy,
yes.
You could just say the color of the Ranger, or you could say the actor. It doesn't matter. I have both of them for each of these. 2010's Red Dead Redemption. Which Ranger was in that game?
I'm going to go with Austin St. John.
Incorrect.
Dang.
Frosty.
Jason Frank.
Incorrect.
Wow.
Dan. You have the good news, Dan, is you now have a 25% chance if you're just guessing.
I'm going to have to go with the Blue Ranger, David Yost.
And I'm going to have to tell you are wrong. Back to Jeremy.
Oh, man. What?
I don't know about this, man. I'm going to go with Amy Jo Johnson.
That is incorrect. Frosty.
Walter Jones, Black Ranger.
That is correct.
Wow. We had to get there at some point, right? Like,
that's the beauty. There's a finite number of answers here that could happen. Now, if you're wondering, hey, who did Walter Jones, aka the Black Ranger, voice in Red Dead Redemption? He voiced the local population. That is
they're a very important part of any Western town.
You do.
Local population.
Yeah.
All right, Dan.
That's why they put him on the sign, you know.
Yeah, totally. So, Dan, we're going to start this next one. Now, this is fun because I love this game. a very underrated IO hit. Not really a hit because they definitely didn't make more of them. 2003's Freedom Fighters.
Oh.
Which Ranger was in Freedom Fighters?
This is you, Dan.
David Yost.
No. Jeremy.
Amy Jo Johnson.
No. Frosty.
Jason Frank.
No. Dan.
Austin St. John.
No. Jeremy.
Oh my God.
I don't know. What the
You
pink?
forget which one hasn't been named yet.
I do.
You know what's fun is by you guys like,
Goldar.
alternating between colors and actors, it makes things more confusing.
Let's do
Yeah.
colors.
Yeah, okay.
To get through this, I don't think anyone said the Yellow Ranger.
Nope.
All right.
Frosty.
Walter Jones.
With the gimme.
Walter Jones.
That is correct.
Twice with Walter Jones.
Frosty's got 2 points. Walter Jones voiced the Kid in 2003.
Dan, if you don't say
Freedom
Walter
Fighter.
Jones for this next one first, then you are failing.
All right.
That's psychological warfare, and I
That's
will not
true.
stand for it.
See, are you going to go for it or
You're
not?
getting in my head. Get out of my head, Frosty.
I believe this is a MOBA. 2014's Smite.
Yes, it is
Yes?
a MOBA.
MOBA.
Yeah.
There we go. Originally released in 2014. Who lended their voice talent?
Frosty, it's your turn.
No, it's yours. I just did it.
No.
I just won this.
Dan, kick us off.
You're going in rotation.
Yeah.
David Yost.
No. Jeremy.
Walter Jones.
No. Frosty.
Jason Frank.
That is correct.
Yes.
Oh, 3-0. We got stumped.
Frosty sweeps
Oh,
and is the winner.
I had to redeem myself from last time.
He voiced Vaporwave.
Vaporwave.
This
Oh,
Vaporwave
I can't even tell you what
Poseidon.
Vaporwave looks like.
Vaporwave Poseidon. I don't know what that is. I don't know who that is. I don't know why that is. But that was voiced by the great Jason Frank. Okay.
But he did a great job, I'm sure.
Frosty, you are the winner, but I need to do 2 more rounds just for fun.
Oh, God.
Just to extend the pain and the embarrassment
Because-
for Jeremy and Dan.
Because it went so fast.
Did it though?
It really doesn't feel like it went too fast.
It was faster than the last one.
Oh,
All right.
Man.
There is a game that came out in 1995 called Piper.
Uh-huh.
Are any of you
Wow.
familiar with the 1995 game Piper?
Was it a PC game?
I was
Now,
working in the industry as a game reviewer in 1995, and I don't remember that game at all.
so I will give you some hints because we already know that Frosty's the winner. Okay.
All right.
Piper is an FMV educational game.
Wow.
Oh my God.
And if you look up videos, it seems to be more
Well, that
singing
feels like cheating now.
than it is actual gameplay, but I assure you it is a game. And the star of this one, I was watching some footage of the game, and this person has like top line credits in this game
Sure.
and doesn't show up until about 20 minutes into the video.
Interesting.
Well, whoever it is, I mean, again, that's
So-
prime. That's like season 3 of original Mighty Morphin, and they would have been like an international superstar at that point.
So Dan, starting with you, who do you think was the star?
Amy Jo Johnson.
No. Jeremy.
Austin St. John.
No. Frosty.
Oh, David Yost.
No. Dan.
Can I still say David Yost because I am wearing a blue hoodie?
Well, that would be a throwaway. You can say
Toy
whatever
Trang.
you want. It would still be wrong.
Toy
What was
Trang.
that? Nope.
Toy Trang. Yellow Ranger.
Jeremy.
Walter Jones.
No. Frosty.
Jason Frank.
That is correct. Damn.
Unbelievable.
Frosty just-
Unbelievable. Even
yeah.
with hints, we can't beat Frosty at this.
Totally. All right. This is the last one. This is what I'm most excited about. So we're gonna do one
Really?
more round of this, even though, like I said, Frosty is still the winner. Now he's just showing off. 1994's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Which Lone Ranger was in 1994's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? And yes, I looked, and only one of the original cast is credited in this game. Dan.
Ooh.
David Yost.
No. Jeremy.
Jason Frank.
No. Frosty.
Austin St. John.
No. Dan.
Amy Jo Johnson.
Nope. Jeremy.
Toy Trang.
That is correct. That is the only credited original Ranger in
Nice.
1994's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, which I
Nice.
thought was absolutely crazy.
That's very
I would have
surprising.
died if you said the other who I can't remember who was left, and I said that because I was gonna say that Two-Tang, and that would have been funny, but
Yeah,
good
but,
job.
but you
5-0
didn't.
shutout
You
would've
didn't.
been great.
So it's not a sweep.
He didn't.
It isn't a
No, no,
sweep.
yeah.
It isn't a sweep.
Now he's just like, I would have won more.
I would have
if
won even
if I
more,
said it.
man.
Yeah.
I'm very comfortable in the basement. Fine.
The other two that I had here, so that was 2013's Earth Defense Force 2015, Earth Defense Force 2025, a game released in 2013. Walter Jones was additional voices.
Oh, I did play that game, I think.
So that
Yeah,
was awesome.
there's
That
a
game's
cult
great.
around that game.
Yeah, EDF is great. And in 2015's Earth Defense Force 4.1 : The Shadow something. I just copied a ... here. Walter Jones also voiced
Wow,
Soldier
Walter Jones
B.
is happening
Walter
with his
Jones-
GO
Soldier
career
B.
there.
Did a lot of voice acting. He got after it.
Soldier B. I
Now-
think that's Cardi B's bodyguard now.
Some other fun facts. The recent Power Rangers Battle for the Grid.
Yeah.
That one is quite a substantial one that's come out recently. Both Jason Frank and Austin St. John were in that game. Those are the only two credited original cast in that one.
We had an employee at
And-
DE that worked on that game back in the day, actually. He's no longer with the company, but we had some connection to that.
Yeah, but other than that, no David Yost, no Amy
So
Jo
no David
Johnson.
Yost.
I would
I'm
imagine
all
that
blue.
David was the guy that would be doing it more so than other people, but that's surprising.
He's been really like the holding the flame, keeper of the flame
Yeah.
for
Pretty
for
much.
Power Rangers for fandom for a long time. I would have thought he would have jumped at every opportunity, but
And look, my source is IMDb, so take it up with
No,
them.
no,
if
it's
they are
cool.
wrong.
Well, good job with
They're
that
real.
game, Jason. That was fun and a unique approach to
says
it.
the winner. That was a lot
Was
of
the
fun.
winner.
Yeah.
By the way, there was one other thing that was credited to Walter Jones called GHR : The Great Airspace Chase. He has a cameo in that. When I looked it up, I don't know what that is. I couldn't find
Sounds
what
like
it
a
was.
cartoon or something.
I had
but
no
don't know.
explanation
like
on what it was, but
A video you'd see in a
apparently-
kiosk at a museum.
Maybe it's an
about
instructional
aerospace
video for an
technology.
airline.
I don't know.
Thanks
Who
for joining
knows?
us at GHR Airlines.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
GHR Airspace. Yeah, totally. Well, look, guys, this was fun. Thank you for entertaining that ridiculous game. We're at the end. We've made it. Thank you so much. Why don't we just go around and say where people can find you? I know we've done this before, but let's do it again. Frost, you were the winner, so you get to go first.
Well, Dan will give all the digital Eclipse info. So my main point, if you want to reach out to me, is Twitter at Frostman007. That's where I mostly reside these days still. So if you ever want to chit chat about games, feel free to send me a message.
And you can see these links. By the way, all the links for the stuff that people say will be in the description as well. Jeremy.
You can probably find me on most social networks at Jerware, Jerware. Any feedback you got, give it to Dan. But if you want to say hi, yeah, you can at me. That's great.
Any problems or anything, send it to Dan. Any positive feedback or comments, please send it directly to Jerware.
Yeah, I don't want any flowers, just the weeds. That's all I need.
You thrive on weeds. You love weeds.
Surprise! I am the person that's sort of steering the social channels for the studio, and we are at Digital Eclipse or at Digital Eclipse Studios, depending on where somebody had already taken the name. We're most active on Twitter, I would say, but Blue Sky is actually we're on Blue Sky. We're on Mastodon. We're on Threads and Facebook and Instagram as well. Plus every weekend, the first weekend of every month, including one that will have just happened. Some of our folks just like to stream for fun on our Twitch channel, and that's Digital Eclipse Studios. So you can follow us there too. Personally, I'm at Dan Amrich just about everywhere. If you want to hear about guitars or Star Wars nerdery or whatever,
Or both.
that's all you're going to get out of me.
Or reaffirm music tastes.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. So all those links are down below. You can follow me at Jays of Doom, follow Atari, join the Discord, do all those things I said earlier, but do it twice. Do it twice if you can. And yeah, fellas, thanks so much for joining me. was a lot of fun. Rita's
Thanks, man.
Rewind. It's coming soon on a date TBD or TBA.
Yes, we'll announce it
That's the
soon
right
enough.
one.
Hang in there, everybody.
Yeah, just hold
It
on.
is this year. It is 2024. Do not panic. We are not fooling you. But if we don't have the date locked in, and if for some reason it needed to shift, oh my goodness, the floodgates would open and we would be in serious danger. So I know you're anticipating, but we don't want you to be disappointed. That's the trade-off.
Does he sound like a panicked man? No. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Jason.
Bye.